I've lost count of the amount of times where I've done something or agreed to do something or whatever, and then I have to wing it because I'm like, oh, now I need to get ready
Yeah.
for it,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that is the way that I learn best. It's not for everyone, but for me, being under pressure to find a solution to something is probably how my brain works the best. Because if it's not under pressure, I'll leave it for ages and just
Yeah.
procrastinate and go, oh my God, so it because I know that I'm capable of turning things around quite quick. But yeah, it's not I don't think it's necessarily the most healthy way to operate.
Hello, and welcome back to the Face It podcast, run by Faces Consent, an app by practitioners for practitioners. I'm your host, Jess, and today we have a new face to the podcast. But of course, before we begin, I do want to mention that we've recently rolled out Faces Verified. It's our brand new verification scheme on the app. If you want clients to know that you are insured, qualified, and a trusted service provider, you can grab yourself an extra 50 quid in your Faces shop wallet by submitting your documentation and getting yourself that verification badge. Don't forget that you can rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us immensely, as you know. There's so much information, tips, industry advice available on this podcast now that we hit over 100 episodes of this show. So if you'd like the chance to come on and chat to me about your experiences, share your stories and your expertise, then of course you can let me know. You can find us on Instagram at FaceItPod or message me personally at Jess_Messenger. It is though now time to introduce our guest, Lucy White of Lucy White PMU and Aesthetics. Welcome, Lucy, to the Face It podcast.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today, Lucy. Okay, we're going to jump straight in then. I'd love to know what exactly led you to a career in permanent makeup. How did that begin?
This is a really random story actually. So I don't come from a conventional beauty background at all. My background and my goal, bizarrely enough, was to always be a social worker. So
Interesting.
yeah. So I left school and kind of went into that field. So my background is actually working within mental health, drug and alcohol, women fleeing domestic violence. It was a very varied career, with some traveling in between. And I think the thing that kind of propelled me towards permanent makeup is that I had had my second son. And by that stage, I was working in management, so management within social care, considering doing my degree, and just completely burnt out, like totally burnt out. Because even though I was meant to be a 4-day a week manager, my phone did not stop ringing. I felt like I had no time with the children at all, and something just wasn't sitting right with me. And around that time, I actually went with somebody else who was getting their permanent makeup done. I inquired about having permanent makeup done myself and sort of looked at it and thought, for the amount that I am earning doing my 4-day a week social care job with all of the heartache that it brings, because it's heavy stuff, like it's
Yeah, I can
heavy.
imagine.
Um, like these girls are kind of earning like in a few hours what I would earn in a day. What am I
Yeah,
doing? So my personality is very much, I get a harebrained idea and then I'm 100 miles per hour. It's happening and I don't
yeah,
care what anybody else says. So I was on maternity leave. So I'd had Harry, which is my second little boy. I was on maternity leave. I started looking into this when he was a month old. And by the time he was 4.5 months old, I was on a course. So I'd begged, borrowed the money, because I had no money at the time. We just got a mortgage, and decided to do my training and was just absolutely determined that that is what I was going to do. Um, despite everybody's concerns, because I think my course, like initially, I think it was about £7,000.
yeah. Probably sounds about right back in the day.
Yeah, that was all 3 areas of permanent makeup in
Wow.
4 days.
Mm.
Um, and I've got, vividly remember having to run off to the toilet at the training academy to use my breast pump because I was still breastfeeding the baby. So it
Wow.
was carnage.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led me there. And ultimately, because I hyperfixate on things and work at 100 miles per hour, I was able to build it up quickly enough that I didn't return back to my management job when my maternity leave was
Amazing.
over. Yeah.
Wow.
Exhausting, but
It's
amazing.
interesting that you talk about your kind of personality traits because these are themes that come up time and time again when I speak to different
Yeah.
guests. You know, I was talking to Maddie Cook yesterday. You know, all these different people that it doesn't matter what they do, they all have very similar personality traits, which is I get an
Definitely.
idea, I put everything into the idea. I'm not swayed from the idea, and
Yeah.
you know, I put every single egg in that basket to make it work because I'm
Yeah.
determined. So there is very
Mhm.
much an archetype of an individual, I think, when it comes to running your own business. Would you agree?
100%. I think, I know I've spoken to a couple of other sort of colleagues around this, like the amount of um, people that are neurodiverse
Mhm.
within, I don't know whether it's within PMU and aesthetics or whether it is just a self-employed thing, like a business
Yeah.
owner thing, like on a wider
Business owner
scale.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I think
I think
it's
so.
is next level. The amount of people that, being diagnosed with things like ADHD,
Yeah.
or autism to some extent as well, but like the amount of people that have those qualities, I
Mm,
think people like that will just gravitate naturally towards running their own business because it's
mm.
that constant chasing of the highs and lows and the fixating on projects.
Yeah,
And I know for me in particular, the complete inability to work for someone else. I can't do
yeah,
it. I'm useless at it.
yeah. Yeah,
So
it's definitely, I mean, it is, yeah, we were literally talking about ADHD yesterday for similar reasons, talking about the fixations yesterday for similar reasons. So it's just quite interesting that that's been part of your process sort of early on in your career and,
yeah,
noticing those personality traits really. But I
yeah.
completely agree with you. So what made you decide to add the aesthetics side of your business into your treatment menu? You know, at what point in your career, once you got started and you launched the business and you were seeing PMU clients, you know, did you spot that there was a really nice progression with aesthetics?
Mm.
Did it work quite nicely alongside PMU? Like, what was the thought process behind all of that?
So I mean, with me, I think I'm trying to remember when I did it. So I'd done the PMU training came first. So I'd launched that and I did that first. And I think, as most of us do, when you kind of new, you want some other sort of income buffing treatments
Mm,
in there. So I obviously developed a client base and there were skin issues and stuff like that. So for me, instantly I was like, it would be great to add things like facials, dermaplaning, needling,
mm,
things that you're able to add on to complement PMU fairly easily. Um, so that was my logic behind it, was just growing the business. And then what happened is that the PMU got so busy and the training got so busy that I had no time to offer any of those treatments.
mm,
I haven't actually ever done aesthetics as such, but I've always worked with a nurse that comes in to provide that. And
mm,
again, the logic behind that was that, that it's in demand. I don't
mm,
personally want to offer it. I don't want to lose clients because they're looking for that. Um, and a lot of it crosses over. So clients that are looking for aesthetic treatments will quite often have PMU, vice versa.
mm,
And the same with skin as well. So I did do some, and then I kind of pulled away from it because PMU was my passion. And now opening the clinic and stuff, when I opened the clinic, I have other people coming in that offer those treatments. So they're still there within the clinic. It's just that I'm not doing them personally.
yeah.
And they feed in really well because our clients are very interchangeable. So yeah,
I totally agree, and I think, you know, a lot of times, especially with PMU, you know, some of the things that get in the way of PMU are skin issues and things like that, like
yes,
you say, that you know, so it's nice to be able to put a client on a journey, you know, and if they're not right now, doesn't mean they can't be right for PMU a little bit further down the
yeah,
line. It's just that they need these other particular treatments first. So, like you say, I mean, my next question was, you know, about how it's helped you expand your you know, insisted you in growing the business, and I think that that's right, keeping it in house, even if it's another
yes,
practitioner that's offering that, it means that
Yeah,
you can keep that constant that client with you. You know, they're on that
yeah,
journey with you, within your own
absolutely.
clinic.
It's kind of the reason as well that we've brought in laser.
Mm,
Because again, not just we do laser hair removal, we do tattoo removal, but the big one for me was PMU removal,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
for so many years, someone would come in and they've got brows that just cannot be worked on or something like that. And I was sending them away. So I was referring them
Mm,
out to, and did develop good relationships with the people that I was referring to. But actually, why not just do
mm,
it from my clinic? So yeah, that's another sort of treatment area that we've gone down to help clients go on a little journey with us rather than
mm.
outsourcing other clinics. Yeah, it's just about being a one-stop shop, really, I think, isn't it?
I think it is. I think that's the way that things have gone. And like you say, you know, you've got your passion and you can specialize in what you specialize in. But when you work with other practitioners that specialize with what they specialize in as well, you know, you make a really, you know, great hub for clients to come
Yeah,
to and just have, you know, themselves looked after by all of you. And you all work in a similar way as well. You're all working, you know, you've got that relationship with each other.
yeah,
And that's the problem with constantly referring out. I know you say obviously you had good relations with them and that's great, but at the same time, they're not part of Lucy White. You know, they're not
yeah,
part of that clinic. So they can work in whichever way that they want to work. And that might not necessarily be that complementary to your end goal for that client.
yeah.
Or it's nice to just see them on that journey in house, isn't it? I think.
It is definitely, yeah.
So, with regards to laser, then, have you found that that's been a really good investment? Because I think that that's a lot of people, especially when it comes to PMU. So, we'll just talk about it in relation to PMU.
Mm.
You know, it is quite an investment, isn't it? And I think that's always the worry for people. I'm going to invest in this piece of machine, and you know, is it going to pay off? Have you found it has been a worthwhile investment so far?
Yeah, it's definitely grown, because it is a big outlay.
Mm,
Um, but I think, yeah, it's a slow burner, because I think
mm,
when people know you predominantly as like a PMU clinic, and like skin, that doesn't necessarily translate
mm,
to you being at the forefront of their mind when they're considering laser. I don't
mm,
know why that is. Um, but we've worked quite hard to sort of get that out there. The fact that, you are still welcome to come see us if you've got existing permanent makeup that you're not happy with, and we can assist you with that. And we have noticed as well that there's other permanent makeup technicians locally to us now that don't offer laser, that now referring to us
yeah,
for removal.
yeah.
So in that respect, I can't say that it's one that grew as quickly as permanent makeup,
Mm,
honestly. But the money has been made back for the machine, and it's growing. And I think
mm.
it'll only continue to grow because,
I agree.
there's a lot of
I
bodies that
agree.
needs
There's a lot
removing.
of work walking around out there, isn't there, that's sort of about ready for removal. And I think over the next
Yeah.
few years, the more that clients are educated on the need for removal, you know, in a PMU lifetime, because I think that that's been the
Mm.
issue, hasn't it? It's been
Yeah.
clients are walking around uneducated in that. So the more that they're educated that, you know, that's likely within their PMU
Yeah.
lifetime, then the more they're going to accept that that's part of the process, the more they're going to seek
Yeah.
out those people that can provide the service. And like you say, it's not going anywhere. We're definitely going to be seeing
Yeah.
more and more removals,
Absolutely.
especially
Yeah.
when clients want, you know, a new set of brows, for example,
And
and
trends
trends
change
change.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. So,
Yeah.
like all of the bigger ombre brows and stuff that people wanted a few years back,
Mm,
I feel like the industry's steering much more towards sort of more, I want to say more natural, really, like
yeah.
fluffier, more delicate stuff. And obviously, you can't do that if you've got skin saturated with a real big, thick, heavy brow, or lips that are, bright
Mm,
red, or you can't do it. So there has to be a way of you being able to then work on that canvas again, isn't there?
yeah.
I feel like clients, once it's explained properly to them, they're quite understanding of it.
Mm. Yeah, I can agree that. And I think, like you say, the trend side of it is definitely shifted, and it has an aesthetics as well. I'm sure that you know
Mhm.
the practitioners that you've got working at your clinic have seen a bit of a change, you know, in terms of injectables and things that what clients are looking for.
Mm.
It's not necessarily what it was several years ago.
No.
People just want that more rejuvenated look, which I think is great. I think it's a really great direction that we've headed in, I think.
Oh, definitely. It's the having stuff done without other people knowing that you've had stuff done. I think that's the goal for people at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's what looks best as well. It looks really, really good
Mm,
on people.
yeah.
What do you love most about permanent makeup industry then, and how does it differ from aesthetics from what you've seen? Are there differences between the two?
I mean, I feel like there is and there isn't. I mean, I do think that from what I've seen, and this is only as an outsider, so I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I spend too much time doom scrolling on Facebook and probably see too much of the chaos that goes on. I do think
Uh-huh.
the aesthetics industry seems to be a lot more savage to each
Mm,
other. Like there
yes.
seems to be a lot more, I was in one of their groups the other day and I think there was like a mole that had infiltrated one of the groups.
Mm,
They were saying that they felt the other girls in it were saying they thought it was a medic that had come in almost like baiting
yeah.
to see if they'd picked up on the. I don't know. It's beyond me, like all of it.
Yeah, it's
But
wild.
oh my God, it's so brutal. And I
Mm,
think PMU, don't get me wrong, like obviously in every industry where it's predominantly women, there's going to be a level of, like gossiping and stuff like that. But I
mm,
do think overall it's probably quite supportive, I feel.
completely
And I think
agree.
things like the PMU circle and stuff like that have obviously, and all of the support forums do. It seems like it brings a lot more people together in that industry than the aesthetics industry. I feel like
I
maybe it's more
completely
ruthless.
agree. I sort of transverse the line between the two, which is quite nice. So I've got like one foot in PMU camp because I do
Yeah,
PMU, and then one foot in aesthetics camp because obviously I work with faces and I do a lot of this and I speak to them on a daily
yeah,
basis, and I'm in all the groups, and the communities are quite different.
yeah.
PMU, like you say, you always get the odd one, but on the whole, generally speaking, it's a really, really supportive atmosphere.
Mm,
And a lot of the criticism is constructive as well, and
yeah,
I think that's what's lacking sometimes within the aesthetics
yeah.
camp with the groups and things. It's not that constructive a lot of times.
No.
Sometimes it is, but a
Yeah,
lot of times it's not. It's just for the sake of being, catty. So yeah, it is quite different, and I'm quite proud of that. To be honest, with PMU, I'm quite proud to be part of that community. And like you say,
yeah,
we've got to mention PMU Circle. I was going to come on to that in a bit anyway. We had the lovely Layla on from
yeah,
PMU Circle on the pod a couple of weeks ago,
yeah.
and she's built an amazing community there.
Yes.
Um, so I'd advise
Yeah.
anyone to check that out if you're looking for somewhere
Mm.
to go and live and get advice and support. And I know that you're a big part of that, Lucy, as well. You obviously always pipe up and stuff in there and help people and give them
Yeah.
advice when they need it. So,
Yeah. I
do
try.
you enjoy that part of it? Do you enjoy being able to just sort of pass on your knowledge?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think my part of it that I enjoy the most, and probably sort of what led me on to do the training and stuff, is I just I feel like finding PMU is so I had quite horrible circumstances while I was building my business. I also was getting divorced. So the baby that I was talking about previously, that child's father, very soon after doing my PMU training, we separated. So I had
Mm,
two little boys, 3-year-old and an 18-month
lot.
year old. And actually, what it comes down to is if I hadn't have done PMU and I hadn't have built that, I wouldn't have been able to get out of that. There's no
Mm,
way. Financially, I would not have
yeah.
survived
Mm.
doing the job that I had been doing before. And it will always get my words out. It'll always have a place in my heart, I think, because it enabled me to do that. So
Yeah.
I love, I think I love being able to sort of say to people, if you do want to change certain aspects of your life or you need to be more independent, you can do it. And the reason that I know
Mm,
that you can do it is because I have. And it's not
yeah.
like I was given any, I wasn't given any financial support. I don't come from a
Yeah.
wealthy background. It's all just graft and
Hard work.
hard as well, like all consuming. But I love that aspect. When you get new technicians that are, like might pop up on things like the PMU circle and say, "Oh, I'm ready to give up," or,
Yeah.
you know, "I've got this
They're
awful
having
client,"
that
or
wobble.
yeah, which we all do. And there's days that I
Mm.
still want to chuck my machine out the window, and you
Yeah.
will always feel like you're not quite good enough. But I love being able to just try and, just give them a little G up, because I would have loved to have had that from someone at the time
Yeah.
when I was in that really hard time. I had friends and family, but they don't understand. I think having
Yeah.
someone in the industry to go, "You can do this. This is what you need to do. We've all been there." I love that part of it, and that's what I like the most about the PMU circle, I think.
Yeah, there's a fair few of you that it's skilled and been doing it for a long time that are there to just, like you say, kind of G people up a little bit,
Yeah,
and it is hard. I think it's a very difficult skill. It takes a long
it's so hard.
time, it takes a lot of
Yeah,
commitment, extra training. It does in aesthetics, but I think particularly with PMU, to really get that good natural finish, to get ink that retains, and it's a commitment to yourself, I think. And sometimes people have
mm,
that wobble and think, "Oh, I'm just going to jack it in," and it's like you've just got to keep
yeah,
going because it
we've all
will
been
come
there.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So what training do you offer, and what do you love to teach the most?
So I'm a VTCT centre, so I can do the government regulated qualifications, and then I also do like separate units in brows, lips, and liner. I can teach areola. I can teach
Amazing.
master classes. So I will do like single day master classes for technicians that are already qualified. And I also do like mentoring hours and stuff as well. So that could
Yeah.
be around anything. So if someone is struggling, I don't know, eyeliner stretches, and doesn't
Mm.
feel like they need a whole training, but they might want to come in for a few hours just to recap certain aspects of the stretching or theory. I kind of, yeah, I've got
Amazing.
lots of little bits for everyone. Yeah,
I think that there's a lot of room for that. I like that you offer that because sometimes it is just one facet of what you're doing that
yeah,
you're just not getting it for whatever reason.
yeah,
Either you didn't spend a lot of time on it in your initial training, or you can't
yeah,
get it out of, online content. You need to just be with someone who's got
yeah,
that skill down and just do lots of that one thing. And that could actually
yeah,
change, especially with PMU, it could change your entire result just by altering your
100%.
stretch, or,
Yeah,
your needle choices, or your, how you're saturating. That one skill could literally change your end results. And I think that
yeah.
that's a brilliant thing that you offer, having that sort of one-to-one
Do you-
mentoring.
Yeah, I actually think that probably masterclasses are my favourite thing to do with
Yeah.
technicians. It could be like someone that's been going for 2 years, 6 months, whatever, but for the exact reason that you said. So you're not teaching them from scratch. You
Yeah.
might just have them in on a masterclass, and it might be one tiny thing that it
Mm,
seems tiny, but actually is having a significant impact on their results. If you can tweak that for them and just go, it literally will change the way they feel about that treatment forever. And I love that. And I love getting that feedback. So
mm.
that is probably my favourite thing to do, I think, actually.
I can
The master.
imagine, to be fair, just being able to kind of observe someone. It's like getting them in, do your thing, let me observe you, and let's see if we can
Mhm.
spot what's going wrong
Yeah.
where, at what point of the
Troubleshooting.
process.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, once you've got your eye on that one thing and you think, right, we've got this is what we need to work on.
Yeah.
And I've seen people, posting in groups, and especially with lips. I think lips is a big one. And when they just finally click and they get that first set of lips, that after they've done that extra training from PMU Circle, they
Hallelujah.
go,
Yeah.
I love lips now.
Uh,
I hated
Yeah.
lips, and now I love doing lips because it's
Yeah.
just suddenly clicked what I need
Yeah.
to be doing. It
Yeah.
must be really nice
Definitely.
to be part of that for someone, for sure.
Yeah. It is.
You offer clients medical tattooing as well. So
Mhm.
can you explain to our listeners what medical tattooing actually is and how you got involved with Bupa?
So there are lots of aspects to medical tattooing, but I do 3D areolas and repigmentation. So I will work with most often women who have had breast cancer and gone through mastectomy and have got complete flat surfaces. So they want a 3D tattoo.
Mm.
I do that. Also, some trans work as well. So it could be female to male if they have had complete top surgery and want smaller areola, more
Mm.
masculine. And then I also do repigmentation. So if a woman has had something like a breast lift and the tissue has not healed successfully, we can repigment any scar tissue just to give them, an improved appearance.
Mm.
Um, so I became involved with Bupa because when I go in on something, I'm in, and that is it. I
Yeah.
become absolutely consumed by it. I was quite lucky, really, because I did my initial training in areola tattooing and then began to sort of like advertise. I was featured in the local paper, which I think helped.
Mm.
So that's kind of a good one for people if they're trying to get certain things off the ground, because you'd be surprised how many people still read the local paper. I was
Yeah.
really surprised.
Mm.
Um, Probably a different generation, like to maybe who we're initially targeting, but it does work.
Yeah.
So I was on LinkedIn all the time, talking to surgeons and Facebook, just randomly cold call approaching people.
Wow.
I'm not
Yeah.
really
Cold
afraid to
calling.
go
Yeah.
knocking people and showing them my work and just saying, look, this is what I can do for your patients. I'll do it for you free of charge. Support me,
Wow.
basically.
Yeah.
And with Bupa, the way that you become affiliated, or I can't remember their term, whether I think it's an approved provider.
I think it
Um,
is. Yeah.
yeah, you have to basically have two surgeons that are with Bupa that will sort of not advocate for your work. What's the word I'm
It
looking
kind of
for?
is though, isn't it? Authorized is probably the wrong word as well, but
Yeah,
they've verified that they're happy
that's
with
it.
the results of your work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to have two separate surgeons that will provide their bupa pin and say, we
Wow.
support this person. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was really lucky because I got that very quickly because I developed a couple of really good relationships with surgeons quite quickly.
Yeah.
And still have good relationships with them to this day. That's probably where the bulk of my work comes, to be honest.
Mm.
But yeah, that was my little journey into Bupa.
That's amazing, Lucy. Yeah, congratulations on that. It's not easy to do. And how interesting as well, because I think there's this misconception, particularly with areolas,
Mm.
that you need to be an artist to be able to do that kind of treatment.
Mm.
You see a lot of traditional tattooists going into doing that kind of thing because they've got the drawing down, they've got that kind of background. So it's interesting to see that, you came from your background, you do
Yeah.
PMU, and actually you can get to that point where you do really, really great 3D
Mm.
medical tattooing. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is that misconception a little bit around it, isn't there, I think?
Yeah, I think my view on a lot of this stuff is quite controversial, really, because my views on even things like permanent makeup, because obviously I feel like you've got two people that get into it, two kinds of people. You've got people that are very naturally artistic and that side of things comes very easily to them. And then you've got the people that aren't so much, but are the real hard workers that
Yeah.
learn. I was definitely in that camp. I was not naturally gifted with the PMU
Mm.
or the areola. It was constant practice.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's a really controversial sort of thought process. I don't think that you need to be the best PMU artist or even the best areola artist to have a massive thriving business. People
Mm.
buy into you.
I agree.
Um, Obviously you've got to produce good results, but I think when people obsess over these
Perfectionism.
beautiful, these beautiful Instagram images, a lot of the time they've had a bit of help with editing, but newbies to the industry don't know that. They just think that this is the standard of work that
Yeah.
they need to live up to, and it just isn't true. You,
Mm.
as long as you're providing good, consistent, healed results, I don't think you have to be the best artist in the whole of the world. I really believe that.
I agree with you, and I think as well, it's if the client is happy, they're your biggest feedback loop. So if your clients are happy with their work, that's what matters.
A
It's
hundred
it's
percent.
not it's not the Instagram crowd of other technicians from the international space who
Yeah,
are reporting back on your results that you need to worry about. It's about that client that
exactly.
came in, and are they really, really happy with what you've given them? And that's the best feedback in the world, I think.
100%. I mean, it's, a lot, I do think a lot of it, and we're all guilty of it. And for a long time, I was, a lot of it, you're trying to kind of, not feel inadequate to other technicians or
Yeah.
prove that you're good to other technicians. And then I think you reach a certain point and you think, actually, these people aren't paying my bills.
They're not
It
booking
doesn't
in.
matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what they think of me. Like, I've got my business is successful. My clients like me,
Mm.
unless you want to be sort of PMU famous.
Yeah.
Does it really matter? Probably
Yeah,
not.
it's
As
it's
long as,
about your end goals, isn't it? Like you say, it's if that is your end goal, that you want to
mm,
be, a world-renowned trainer, then yes, it matters what PMU
yes,
artists say about your work. Of course it does, because they're going to be your customers. They're your clients. They're the ones
exactly.
booking in for your training, that are coming to the conferences, that are coming to watch you live. That's a
Yeah,
different ball game. But if you just want to do some training, or you just want to be good in your area and you want a really booked out clinic for clients,
yeah,
you need to, you need to look in the right places for your feedback. For me, certainly
100%.
when I do it, it's about the client's satisfaction.
Yeah,
If my client's not happy, I'm not happy. I've done something
yeah,
wrong and I need to fix it. That's
yeah,
my that's my ethos. If my client's happy and they're happy to recommend me to their friends or their family, I've
yeah,
done my job from start to finish.
exactly.
I've let that
Yeah,
person leave with exactly what they came in for. So yeah, I think it's just about working out what is it what's important to you in your career
what's your goal?
trajectory. Yeah, what's your goal, for
Yeah,
sure. And I think
absolutely.
a lot of people's goal is just to have, a nice income, and a
Yeah,
booked out clinic. I think that's the most common goal.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but you have built a wonderfully successful business, Lucy. So, how long did it take to start seeing the fruits of that labor and feeling like that the hard work and education that you've put into yourself was starting to pay off? Was it several years? Was it quite quick for you because you were so gung ho on getting it done?
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, I suppose it was because of the way that it happened, and because, so when I first started, I had a little clinic room set up at home. So I had no
Mm,
overheads.
perfect.
Um, everything was just mine. Whatever I made, minus the tax, was mine. So
Mm,
it took off for me very, very quickly. That was 10 years ago. So things were very different.
mm,
There wasn't as many people in the area doing it. Um, and yeah, I was able to build a name quite quickly and earn as much as I had been earning in my management job doing the PMU within a year. So
mm,
easily, comfortably within a year. Having said that, I was working, I mean, every hour that I could around the baby. I used to go and do clinics in other, like pop-up clinics in other people's, and I used to travel here, there, and everywhere. Sometimes I used to go up there for no money whatsoever.
yeah.
Um, but that first year, that relentless hard work, that it probably did compromise a lot of time with a young baby, but
Mm,
it paid off because I was then able to leave that job. So I think for me, I did start seeing, positive gains from it quite quickly. But then it goes on a journey, doesn't it? So
of
obviously,
course.
I was at home. The richest I've ever been was working at home,
Yeah,
by far,
absolutely. Of course.
by far. Even though it was just me and like two other people that I had around me at that time bringing in income, I was so much better off, like,
Yeah.
and work less hours as well.
Mm,
Um, and then obviously the business changed again, and you take on a premises and
mm,
your turnover goes up but your profit goes down because your
Yeah.
expenses have gone up. And you've got all these people working around you, but it's still, those expenses are huge. So it's gone in peaks and troughs is the honest answer. And I think anyone that says that it doesn't is kind of a little bit of a liar, because if your
Mm.
business is naturally progressing, outgoings are going to change,
Yeah.
circumstances are going to change. It does go up and down. But yeah, the initial sort of reward for doing it was quite, and then I've just had to roll with it as it's kind of changed and mutated through the years.
How have you found that side of things, the business side of PMU, and running clinics? You know, has that been learning on the fly? Has that been just doing it and adjusting your methods accordingly because it worked or it
Mm.
didn't work? You know, did you do coaching? Because some people get themselves a business coach. How was it for you in that journey?
So I only did coaching way after I'd opened my clinic, way
Mm,
after I'd said, you're talking like, within the last couple of years.
mm.
Um, I am much more of a sort of throw myself in, see what works, what doesn't, and then change it accordingly, because I
I'm the same.
can't. Yeah. And I do actually think that that works. I do think that that works
There's a
because,
level of naivety to it, isn't there? And I think that that sometimes help you just get stuff done. And I think it goes back to that perfectionist thing that we spoke about earlier in relation to the actual treatment. You can stop yourself from making any progress just simply by trying to make everything perfect. And sometimes
100%.
you just have to just do it and see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
And make calculated risks, I suppose.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I've lost count of the amount of times where I've done something or agreed to do something or whatever, and then, I have to wing it because I'm like, oh, now I need to get ready
Yeah.
for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is the way that I learn best. It's not for everyone, but for me, being under pressure to find a solution to something is probably how my brain works the best. Because if it's not under pressure, I'll leave it for ages and just
Yeah.
procrastinate and go, oh my God, so it, because I know that I'm capable of turning things around quite quick. But yeah, it's not, I don't think it's necessarily the most healthy way to operate.
Yeah,
But
I think there's somewhere in the middle, isn't there? I mean, I think I'm exactly the same as you by the signs of that, Lucy, and I was the
yeah,
same in my previous business as well. It was very much had an idea and just went with it and did it
yes,
and, and learned on the fly and obviously there were times where I thought, "Why did I do it like that? I've now just created this massive problem I've got to solve." But
yeah,
again, I learn best under pressure. So,
yes,
and to make progress, sometimes you have to take those calculated risks and just jump in with both feet. And I suppose it's working out what's the worst that can happen with something,
yeah.
really. And a lot of times it's not as bad as you think when you actually sit and work out what the worst case scenario is.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for opening your first premises as well.
Mm,
Like exactly what you just said, you've got to figure out what is the worst that's going to happen. Well, the worst that's going to
mm,
happen is you won't be able to afford it, and then you move back
mm,
home if that's where you
mm.
started. It would be a kick in the teeth and probably a bit of an ego crusher and
Yeah,
a
yeah.
confidence sniffer, but you would learn from it, and ultimately that is the worst that can happen. Whereas
Mm,
for me, it'd be far worse not to try and to be
mm,
seeing other people do it and think, I wonder if I could have done that, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I think you're totally right, especially in relation to bringing, doing your own clinic. It's quite a big move, and I think sometimes you just have to go
yeah,
with it. And actually, a lot of the people I have spoken to that have opened their own salon or their own clinic, whatever, um, they were a little unsure it was the right time, but they just went for it, and they made it work. They made it happen because they had to. It was one of
yeah.
those we have to make this work situations, and they tend to be the ones that come out with a successful premises in the end.
So, yeah,
Um, sorry.
my clinic actually, so my clinic, I seem to have a bit of a, I don't know if it's like some sort of habit of opening things when I've got new babies or starting new things when I've got new babies. It seems to do something to my brain. But the clinic I actually opened, so I had, how old would she? Again, a not even a year old, and was at the back end of quite a significant family court case. So all of my money was
Mm,
going to that. just decided that I wanted to take on this premises because it came up, it was the right place. And I was like, if I don't do it
Mm.
now, I'm going to
Yeah.
forever regret it. And I don't want to let
Mm.
these other things, these horrible things, hold me back from doing it.
Mm.
Completely nuts. But again, I feel like sometimes my most crazy decisions are the ones that work.
It's true.
The sensible
Yeah.
ones, maybe not so much. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 I don't know why that is, but it does seem to be
Neither
the
do I.
case.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other artists who are struggling to make connections in the industry? As you know, it can be quite lonely work, especially if they are
Mm,
working from home or working in their own clinic on their own.
yeah.
What advice would you give to them if they're just struggling to find their people, I suppose?
So I would say like a lot of my friends have come through training. So like going on like friends within the PMU industry. Um, like when I've gone to do masterclass training, if there's like three other girls there or whatever, a
Mm,
lot of friends have come from that. Um, I think that's a good one. I think join all of the Facebook forums, the friendlier ones, not the ones
mm,
that you're scared to post in. Join the PMU circle, go to the conferences. I'm not a massive fan of conferences now. Um,
mm,
I did used to go, and I again developed really good relationships from going. And I think it is so hugely beneficial in the early days because you've got
mm,
the learning aspect and you've also got, the socializing aspect of it. And some really close friends have come from things like that. I'm just not a lover of it now. It's too many
mm.
people. I'm too old
Yeah,
and
it's big.
grumpy. Yeah, it's huge. But you've got like lots of new ones springing up and stuff that aren't quite as massive.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I just think it's about getting yourself out there, which can be really uncomfortable when you feel
mm,
like I've never really, I don't feel like I've ever really truly fitted in to some aspects
mm.
of the industry. So for me, it was so uncomfortable. You just got to do it. And you'll
Yeah.
find so many people that feel the same way as you. You'll find your people that go,
Yeah,
yeah,
90% of people feel the same way, I reckon.
yeah,
Just
I've
no
got
one
it.
talks about it, do they?
No, and they should.
Mm. Yeah,
So, but yeah,
PMU
that's what I would
PMU
say.
Circle, good place to start. A
Yeah,
lot of friendly faces in there. So what's
definitely.
next for Lucy White then? What's on the agenda?
Well,
Dare I ask?
so this
Not
year
another
is a bit,
clinic.
no. So this year is a bit of a write off because I'm actually getting married again this year. So I'm getting married in
Oh,
October.
congratulations.
Thanks. So there's all like the stuff around that.
Mm.
I'm going to continue with the training. Might have some little bits and pieces lined up to maybe, I don't know what I can say here. Some little projects lined up. But yeah, that'll hopefully be more clear towards the end of the year. Actually, things are going to change significantly for me because I'm actually looking at homeschooling, so home educating one of my children
Wow.
from September. So whether it be that he becomes our newest staff member at the clinic,
Yeah.
or whether I reduce my hours, I need to make some significant changes, I think, to how much I'm working. So the focus will be maybe doing one day or less a week with clients, focus on the training and mentoring,
Mm,
um, maybe some online stuff, and then see where it takes me, really. It's
mm.
always been my approach. Just go with it and see where I end up.
Yeah, this is it. I've never been a fan of a 5-year plan. It's never really been something
No,
that I've done. I think that's a really long time to look ahead, and I think that we
it's
change as
huge.
people year on year, and I think what we want and our desires and our hopes change way more often than every 5 years.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm very much just sort of live in that moment. If it makes me happy right now and it works for my life right now, I'll stick on doing that. And if that
yeah,
changes, that's when I think, okay, adjustments might
yeah.
need to be made, and I can never really say where I'll be, a year
No,
from now,
I
really.
don't think I'd want to either.
No, I think business owners are like that. I think there's very few of us that have this very set 5-year,
Mm,
plan in mind that I must be married here, I must have children here, I must buy a house here, I must have this career by this age. I just don't
yeah,
think the self-employed business owner side of things works in that way. The things
no.
change too quickly to be able to.
I think any time that I have done that as well, any time that I've had a plan, the universe steps in and just completely knocks me on my ass. So
Yeah, and
now I'm
sends you
just
down a completely different path.
100%. Yeah. So now I
Yeah.
just trust that I'll end up in the right place, I think.
And you totally have. You really have with what you're doing. So well done on that, Lucy.
Thank you.
Where can our listeners find you and your training specifically?
What is an area?
Well, yeah, which area do you operate from? And then also where can they find you online?
Yep. So I'm in Rayleigh, which is in Essex. So we're just outside of London. And you, God, you know, your mind goes blank. Website address
Web address.
is, yeah, www.lucywhitespmu.com. And my Instagram as well, Lucy White Permanent Makeup, I think. Yeah, you can get hold of me that way as well for any training inquiries, or just have a
Amazing.
nosy. Yeah, of
Yeah, can people just send you a message and inquire
course I
about
can.
training? Yeah,
Yeah, and either equally, you know, if there's any support needed, people can always message me if they need help. I'll always come back to them. Might not be instantly, but yeah, always my inbox is open always.
amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Lucy. You've
Thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure. Such an interesting story to hear, you know, how you've kind of built your clinic and got your own staff and stuff in there working with you and doing their own thing with aesthetics and skincare. And I just wish you all the best for the future. And thank you as well for being part of the PMU community and giving people like myself, you know, I'm literally, I think, 8 months into my PMU journey. The first thing I did was
Oh
join the
wow.
circle,
Yeah,
and people like you that have, you know, given your expertise and time in there have made that process a lot less overwhelming. So yeah, just to
that's
thank you
lovely.
from me and the other newbies that are in it for being so
Yeah.
helpful. And
Oh,
thank
that's
you
really lovely
for
to hear.
joining us today. Best luck for the
You're
future,
welcome.
Lucy.
Thank you.